it in a crib. This stupid video I just showed you. I almost stroked out and died over it. You're watching a different show. It's donkey. You ain't a captain of nothing but a sinking ship. Don't do this to me, Harry. The Ohio State. It's Ohio State. What do you mean, the? 312-988-15.
Hello?
You tell Johnny all you've heard and seen. Sometimes it's good to just yell about football. Yeah, that's right. Welcome in, welcome back, folks. Notre Dame football back in business. Notre Dame football back in business. I hope you all enjoyed your little break. I hope you all, your blood pressure went down. I hope you were all able to take a little break, do something for yourself. Go to a pumpkin patch. Go do something Halloween related. I don't know. I just do something during the break. And what an interesting break it was. Indeed. I feel some life breathing back into the Notre Dame fan base. I feel a little, you felt like you were down and out, and now maybe you're, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you could tell me if I'm wrong. Something with like feeling like we're back in this after all, or like this weekend with all these upsets is what you needed to feel like Notre Dame could be back in. It's something. There was a little something here that kind of reignited that Notre Dame flame over the weekend. It's up to Notre Dame what they do with it. It's up to Notre Dame what they do with it. And the reality is it's a week-to-week battle here the rest of the way for Notre Dame. You got a string of games here till the end of the season Notre Dame could easily win all of, and they could lose to anybody on the schedule. That's the reality. Notre Dame could win all of the remaining games easily. They could lose any one or more of them at the same exact time. That's the issue I have with Notre Dame right now. I can't trust them to do what I need them to do every week. And they've proven what the low end could be. So you could say, look at that schedule. Oh, Notre Dame could win all those games, should win all those. Yeah, should have won against Northern too. And look what happened. That's the problem when you break this trust. That's the problem when you break this trust. And I've seen a lot of people talk about, well, look at what Alabama did. It isn't just Notre Dame. They lost to Vanderbilt, blah, 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 blah. Couple things to keep in mind here. Number one is at least Alabama has all of the evidence in the modern era on the high end. Notre Dame doesn't have that. They just have the low end. Keep that in mind. Also, Vanderbilt's not Northern. It's bad. And I know, it's bad. And I know the Alabama people are saying it's the worst loss in the history of the whole school. I understand all that. Vanderbilt's not Northern. These are still apples to oranges. Don't go there. But people are going there. Don't go there. It's not the same thing. Good to see everybody back. It's just good. I feel out of my routine. I haven't been live since Wednesday. Really, really throwing me off. Mikey Poles says, I'm going to the Navy game. I'm going to be miserable. Oh, buddy. Telling you, the way we play offense, we go 3 and out a couple times. They do a couple 8.5, 9-minute, 14-play drives. Notre Dame loses that game. Couple linebackers take wrong angles. Boom, there you go. Like I'm telling you, it wouldn't take much, and that stupid Navy game could end your year. I cannot be more clear about this. I don't trust Notre Dame. I don't trust Notre Dame. So I don't know what to expect on the back end. You could win any of these games. You could lose any of these games. And I'm looking at that. I'm telling you, the Navy thing is the most Notre Damiest thing I've ever laid my eyes on. Couple 3 and outs. Couple 9-minute drives by Navy. Couple bad angles by the linebackers. Oh, who's got the pitch, man? Oh, who's doing this? And that's how you lose and your season's over. Same thing for Navy or Army too. So this is going to be really, really interesting. Let's get into it, and we'll go from here. It's good to see everybody back. We got a couple phone calls already. It's just we got to get back in the routine. Angela, hope everybody enjoyed the off weekend. Back to ND stressing. You ain't kidding about that. $2 holler from Rodney. I told y'all, teams ahead of us are going to falter too. The irony of this weekend was, I was looking at the bye week coming up, and I'm like, man, right when Notre Dame has an off week and I'm more available to like watch more of these games or whatever, it feels like there's not a lot of very interesting games that are going to be like ranked on ranked where you have like some interesting outcome. And it turned out to be the most interesting weekend of the year with a ton of upsets. And I'm just mad Miami didn't lose. That should have been the other one. I'm mad they didn't lose. That should have been the other one. Kent, what's going on, buddy? Philly special, Matt Radke, everybody good. It's just good to see everybody. The Wolverines look terrible, not a top 25 team. We got to get the QB situation fixed. Yeah, they have problems. Yeah, their offense is messed up. But look who's talking. So is ours. Oh boy. So it's a one. Listen, here's the good news. We have clarity now. Miami should absolutely be 4-2. Instead, they're undefeated, ranked 6th in the country, and have an easy schedule. It's really, really frustrating. I guess the good news is they're probably going to hog up a playoff spot, and I don't trust them to beat anybody because they're living on the razor's edge against teams that are not good already, and they're struggling to not lose. The refs have been helping them every week. It's really, really annoying to have them think that they're good, think that they're back and all that. I get it. But they're undefeated and we're not. And so maybe I'm an idiot for running my mouth. Who do I think I am? Like, we lost to Northern, so I can't really say nothing. I can't really say anything. So in USC too, the USC thing's really, that's interesting as well. They weren't planning on dropping this one. That's a tough schedule with landmines everywhere. They weren't planning on losing the one they lost. And now I'm pretty sure they have Penn State next week. So that's going to be really juicy for them. You're looking at some problems there. Or they upset Penn State, and there goes another team that's going to have another loss. It's going to be really, really interesting. Thanks for nothing, Louisville. They're not good at football. Thanks a lot, Louisville. Like, no. Not good at football. A&M looked good. I'll give you that. A&M looked good. Looked like they found an offense. That's the thing. It looked like they were running a decent offense. It looked like you figure defensive team, you know what you're going to get, whatever. They were running a real offense out there. So good for them. That helped us a little bit. And it also overexposed the Missouri thing. A lot of hype off last year's record or whatever, way too much hype to be where they were. I'm kind of glad that they got exposed. G Money says Notre Dame would beat Michigan, maybe. But would Notre Dame beat Northern Illinois? Like this, you guys, this is the problem that I'm having. Callers, we're going to get to you, I promise. This is the problem I have, G Money. ND, you're saying ND would beat Michigan, and you're a Michigan guy. ND would beat Michigan. My question, can Notre Dame beat Northern Illinois? Like, that's the problem. I cannot trust Notre Dame in any scenario at all. You've ruined that. I can't trust you. So it's like Notre Dame would beat Michigan. Yeah, maybe, but I thought Notre Dame would beat Northern, and they didn't. So how do I know? Like, I don't know. So it's just, it's interesting. All right, callers, we're coming to you. Yeah, Notre Dame's consistently inconsistent. I appreciate the clarity all of these upsets have provided. It's just, I just think Notre Dame you just need to win every week. I don't see a path this year for a 2-loss note. Tell me if you disagree, but I'm thinking my way through all of what we've seen in the upsets and everything. I don't think 2-loss Notre Dame's getting in this field, at least not this year, maybe some years. I don't think they're getting in this year with one of the losses being to North. I just don't think you're going to have it. You're going to have 2-loss Big Ten and SEC teams, and they're going to value who those losses are to and in that conference and put them in ahead of Notre Dame, like whatever. So I'm convinced Notre Dame's got to run the table. I appreciate the clarity this week provided me. You literally just have to win every week. You have to win every week. and then you're in the playoff. I don't think you're going to host I don't think you're going to host a playoff game, but to be in it for sure, you got to win every single week. So it's a whole bunch of 1 week battles for your playoff life, I think. 2-loss Notre Dame's not getting in the field this year. So it's going to be it's just going to be an interesting battle. And the Army-Navy thing, let's see how far can they get ranked. Like, I don't know. But I'm telling you, I talk about it all the time. The reason that Navy game makes me nervous is you have a couple 3-and-outs or a bad bounce and turn the ball over a couple times. They eat up almost a quarter with an 8.5, 9-minute, 12 to 14 play drive. And you can't defend the option. You don't know who's got the pitch man, and then this guy, and then you suck up there to do all that, and then they leak behind you for a pass. Like I've seen it a million times. You're asking for trouble. The way this Notre Dame team plays offense, you're asking for trouble. But let's worry about Stanford and Tech first, shall we? Navy is going to be a nightmare. I'm not looking forward to it. So anyways, it's going to be stressful, but you got to get through a couple games here before we have to worry about that. So, all right. Thanks for being here, everybody. I appreciate you very much. As always, man, it's just good to be back. I miss everybody. Andrew says, John, everybody's fixated on the deuce knife flipping right. Damning recruiting strategy is that Notre Dame does not even have one commit from California or Texas. Andrew, I actually feel like it's the other way. I am surprised how little reaction there's really been about the deuce thing, because I think everybody conditioned themselves in their mind to expect this for so many months. I really don't feel like there was that strong of a reaction, but it's just more like this high-level concept debate of, did it make sense to go after this guy that's not a traditional Notre Dame fit or not? Like, that's the part of this I find more interesting now. I'm glad the drama's over and him, like, clowning us wearing other teams' gear. I'm glad that's all over. But it's more about, like, philosophically, when you look back at that, is that still something you should do? Go after a guy like Deuce where the odds of you landing him are low and you want to try and do something different and go grab a kid from that part of the country and all this kind of stuff, but risk, this happening versus an RKG that wants to go there, but he's just not good enough. RKG, just not good enough, but loves Notre Dame, not good enough at football. Like, those are our options. SEC kid that probably won't end up in Notre Dame, or RKG that wants to be here, but isn't that good. I don't like either option, man. I don't like either option. Adam's talking about our young linebackers and DNs against the option. Yeah, it's going to be a problem. And offensively, too. A couple 3-and-outs, and you're in real trouble. You're in real trouble. And with Notre Dame, it doesn't even have to do with the defense we're playing. We cause our own 3-and-outs by just being ineffective on offense half the time. Oh, man. You always have to recruit 5-star players. Yeah, you definitely do. The problem is Notre Dame just doesn't land them. Whether it be Peyton Bowen, whether it be Dante, whether it be Keon Keeley, whether it be this guy. Like, we're not landing them. It's really frustrating. Oh, it's really frustrating. Rodney, thanks for the $2 holler. So, and here's what I think, you guys. Callers, we're going to get right to you. There's a few of you now, more than a few. I feel like I felt the Notre Dame excitement level perk up a little bit after this weekend. I think it's just the concept of hey, other teams are losing dumb games too. It isn't just us. I admit that made me feel better. Yeah, Keon Keeley doesn't even play much almost at all, whatever. We could have used it, whatever, man. Decisions. We all make them. Kent G, thanks for reminding me. Imagine if Notre Dame would have kept those key top recruits. Yeah, I think about it every day of my miserable life. Thanks for bringing it up, Kent. I felt a spark come back in the Notre Dame fan base. It's just okay, these teams lose too. And some of them lose to teams they shouldn't lose to. It's just not us that are the only ones that are going to have one of those weeks or one of those games or whatever. And Notre Dame's creeping up near the top 10. It is not foolish to think if you just keep winning, you're going to be in good position. The issue is, what makes you think Notre Dame's going to keep winning is as inconsistent as they play? That's the question. Notre Dame keeps winning. They're in the playoff. What gives you confidence they will do that? That's what I need to know. That's what I need to know. Andrew, that's really interesting. Buddy Elliott said that Auburn's recent losing streak drove up Deuce Knight's NIL value. He was smart. Competing with Carr had nothing to do with this flip. Auburn is 100% getting a portal QB. And Dante Moore's riding the bench. Whatever, man. All these things we thought. Peyton Bowen's still out there making plays, right? It's just here's the thing, you guys. You cannot say you have any momentum on the recruiting trail when you're losing your top rated guys out of a class. It's physically impossible. Like you can't, there's no logical way anyone could say this recruiting class has momentum or is trending in the right direction when you're losing the top guys out of it. It's not possible. It's not possible. Michael, you're missing the point. I don't know if it's on purpose or accident. You clowns haven't seen a Keon Keeley play at Alabama, but 5-star Bryce Young is playing. I don't know what your point is, Michael. I would want both of them in Notre Dame. That's my point. And whether these guys are playing or not at the places they ended up is a totally unrelated story to the bad PR and the bad hit to art. Those are separate things, right? There's the public perception of Notre Dame's recruiting and the practical realities of what these guys leaving does to our class. And then there's wherever they're at and what's going on. Those things are not connected to me. So I don't know. Bruce, what's going on? Everybody on hold. We're going to go right down the phone lines. You're all getting on. 646. What's up, Bruce?
John, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, my friend. Did you enjoy the Notre Dame off week?
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. A lot more, and I thought this was going to be a weak week for college football just based on the schedule, but those upsets were very interesting.
Yeah, they really, really were, man. Right when I looked at the schedule for Notre Dame's bye week, I'm like, man, this isn't that juicy. There's only a couple ranked-unranked matchups. This doesn't entertain me that much. And then look what happened, man. It was the biggest. What a wild day. And I feel like it perked Notre Dame fans back up, Bruce, because you're like, we're not the only ones that's going to lose a dumb game. That's kind of the feeling I got.
I hear you on that. What I was calling in to say was, first, I really enjoyed your interview with Shepkowski, and I don't know what the other guy's name was. I can't remember.
Yeah.
That was really good.
Thank you. Yeah, the good old SI team
absolutely.
over there. We had fun over there doing a little round table.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll tell you, what I loved about it is, it's funny how he was saying so much of the same stuff I've been telling you for weeks now. Interesting how that works, isn't it?
What are you talking about? Maybe feeling a little better about Notre Dame's position than I talk about often. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, definitely. I was listening to it, and I'm like, I love the way he approaches it very logically and systematically, and a lot of that stuff sounded really familiar. And I was like, yeah, this guy's good.
Yeah, there you go.
I liked it.
Yeah, it's oh man. So what do you make of this, Bruce? Like, where this is just feels like a big weekend to kind of reestablish where everything's at or where Notre Dame's at. Do you feel that? Like where do you feel like Notre Dame's at right now? Just a week-to-week battle? We just keep winning?
Okay, so in your opening, I was making some notes while you were talking. So first, I'm going to answer your question that you asked at the end of that. Why would anyone feel confident that Notre Dame will continue to win? And I feel confident Notre Dame will continue to win because there's no room for error. They know at this point they cannot lose. And the schedule stacks up in a good way. The schedule's not crazy. And I suppose we would have said that going into NIU, but that is what it is. That's the fact. The schedule is not crazy. Notre Dame will out-talent just about every other opponent left on their schedule. And again, they know that they have no more room to play. And I think they also know that if they don't play for their coach and make the playoff, they might have a new coach next season. And I think that means something because I think those guys really love Freeman.
Yeah, it's just it's going to be really, really interesting. Bruce, They should probably beat all these teams on the rest of the schedule. They honestly probably should.
Yeah.
Like, the back half of this schedule is not what and Florida State being Florida State being what they are, and then USC showing more weaknesses week by week. It seems like they're showing, they're fallible. It's going to be tricky with the academies. Like, it's just going to be tricky with the academies. It's just the way it's going to be. But like, Notre Dame should probably win all these games. I'm not counting the chickens till they're hatched, especially with this team this year.
So I'm not either, but I do believe that they're going to get the job done and make a playoffs. And now I'm kind of getting out of order with my points, but that's okay. What I'll say, Notre Dame will make the playoffs. And one thing we keep forgetting, this is not a football product. This is a TV product. And that's their primary focus, is the money, right? And we know that Notre Dame is an absolutely massive draw. So unless it's egregious, if you have an opportunity to get Notre Dame into the 12 teams that are going to vie for a national championship, you do it. Because everyone knows that Notre Dame is, a top 3, top 4 lowest television draw in the country. When they play, people watch, whether they're hate watching or whether they love them, Subway alumni. So we have to take that into consideration, because unfortunately, unlike the NFL, and this is why the NFL is a better product, there's so much politics involved in college football. There's polls and there's committees and all this foolishness. Instead of go out, play your games, win your games, and let what you did between the lines define what happens to you going forward. College football is not like that, right? And so with Notre Dame having the benefit of being a massive draw, as long as they don't stumble again badly, they'll get in. So there's that. They're ranked 12th in the in both polls right now. So keep winning. Other teams will keep losing. They'll be there. And we don't even know. It sounds crazy. There's still a chance that they could possibly get that home game. They might be able to host the home game. Ooh. Now, other teams got to lose and help us, but it could happen. Think about this. Doesn't USC still have to play Penn State? I think Penn State somehow manages to avoid Ohio State and Michigan this year, but they may have to play Oregon in a Big 12, in a Big 10 championship game. Like, there's a lot of stuff still to happen. So all these teams above us, they're going to take L's. Georgia's going to lose again when they play Texas. I mean, there's a lot happening. So just be easy, John. 1-0 every single week.
Bruce,
this is what I've been saying.
All right, here's I don't want to upset you on a Monday morning, buddy. I might have to do it. I don't want to do this to you. I don't want to do this to you. I don't want to upset you on a Monday morning, but I'm going to do it probably.
Let's go.
All right, here's the question, Mr. SEC. For those that don't know, Bruce, Notre Dame guy down in Florida, SEC territory, SEC people all around him. Let me ask this.
Yes, sir.
How is this committee going to start looking at like 2-loss Big Ten and SEC teams compared to like 1-loss other teams? Can you see a scenario where there's a bunch of 2-loss Big Ten and SEC teams that are getting ranked ahead of Notre Dame because they're going, yeah, they lost 2 games, but we still think they're better than Notre Dame? That is the next thing on my radar is Notre Dame keeps winning with 1 loss, but you have those teams, they value their schedule more, and they already thought they were better teams. Like Alabama's a great example. How many losses does Alabama have for them to say Notre Dame's better, ranked higher than Alabama? 3? I think it's 3. I don't think it's 2. I think it's 3. Exactly. So I want to know, what do you think of that? Do you think that that's perfectly fair and they've proven it? Do you think that's BS? Or it's the next thing coming when that next round of losses comes and people start having 2, not 1?
So it's hard for me because you know how I feel about the SEC. I detest them in every fiber of their being. Every one of the schools, I hate them all. That said, in fairness, over the last 15 years, 5 teams in that conference have won national championships. Like, that's undeniable. And as such, they are going to get the credit for the same thing they've gotten credit for the last 2 decades, right? It just means more. It's a tougher slate going through the SEC, quote unquote, gauntlet. And I get that, right? It's unfortunate. I get it. And I'll hold on to the same thing I've been saying. The bottom half of the conference is not great either, although that doesn't necessarily hold up this year because you got the situation where you got a Vandy beating Alabama, you have an Arkansas beating Tennessee. So they're going to say, look at the strength of that conference, even down to the bottom of it. It's that competitive.
Yeah.
So SEC teams, I'm trying to get through this quickly. SEC teams, that have even 2 losses, they're still going to be highly regarded. So to your point, it takes 3. It's going to take 3 for them to drop below a Notre Dame that only has 1. But the Big Ten, I think it's just a function of how many teams from those conferences get in. Now, we also know that it's all about money. And so, and of course, ESPN owns the SEC network, and college football playoff is an ESPN product, so blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to make any public assumptions, but you know what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
So I get all that, but at the end of the day, like I said, you're going to see Georgia with 2 losses at the end of the season. So who knows if they get maybe upset in the SEC title game. This is going to be a very interesting thing, although, and this is a final point, the A&M win is beginning to hold up better and better. So we all have to continue to root for A&M to do their thing and keep winning.
Yeah.
That win is holding up so far. So we'll take that. And the final thing I had to say before I get out of here, I'm sorry, hold you up. The service academies are both 5-0. Neither one is ranked. That's really annoying to me. We need them to keep winning. Then we go ahead and beat each one of them. And we'll have 4 top 25 wins at the end of the season.
Ooh.
Because I don't anticipate USC continuing to be top 25. And that right there, that's going to be good, even though the schedule looks weak. That would be good at the end of the day when you look at the turnaround and the committee has to choose who they're putting in as their 12. So that's what I got.
Oh, Bruce, it's going to be really, really interesting. But I do feel like this. I do feel like this shot, like it was an adrenaline shot in the Notre Dame fan base and everything. Of like, hey, we can still be in this. Other teams are going to come back to the pack, lose. Yeah. Like it really was energizing in a way. You're on the break and you feel like your team come back to life, kind of when you see all of these teams lose, and you're like, man, all we got to do is just. All we got to do is kind of put it together here and just keep winning on this reasonable schedule. Bruce, thanks for touching base, man. And I hope you guys stay dry for the next round of storms coming your way, man. It's wild down there. I think about all my Florida people.
Yes, it is.
Man.
Yes, it is, man. I appreciate that.
Man. So stay safe, Bruce. Anything else on the way out? I knew you would have something to say on all this SEC action, baby. I knew it.
You know it, man. But no, that's all I got, man. Thank you so much for taking my call. Keep up what you're doing. And everybody in the chat, let's make sure we get those likes up. Let's take care of John. Thanks,
appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Bruce. Take care on a Monday there. Go. Bruce has the Format podcast is Bruce's channel. Covers a lot of NBA, always yelling about LeBron, a lot of football. Connor says, I'm right with Bruce. Also, prayers needed. This storm ain't looking good. I'm on the East Coast, getting a little gnarly here. I'm telling you, man, it's Florida living. It's beautiful when it's beautiful, and it's awful when it's awful. So I'm thinking of all you guys. Be safe and try and stay dry. And it's just kind of a wild scenario down there. And so I don't know, you guys. Let's see what else. I highlighted something, and then we'll go right back to the calls. Kent says, I hate to be that person. Notre Dame's got to join a conference if they're not going to go undefeated. Here's what I'm thinking about, Kent. Going right back to the phone lines. Here's what I'm thinking about, Kent. I'm thinking about the next iteration of the playoff when it goes from 12 and they're already bumping it to 14. And with that, the SEC and the Big Ten are really pushing for like 4 guaranteed bids at least 4 each guaranteed in the when it goes to 14 or whatever. I want to see what that looks like with the bids that are automatically going to be given up and locked in for that next iteration of this contract. And I'm telling you, a part of me feels like Notre Dame went with the TV negotiating guy as the next AD to maybe negotiate having to get into the Big Ten and how to navigate all of this stuff. Like, it's in my mind. They can say independent, whatever, blah, 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 blah. But there's a big part of me that wonders if a part of this whole thing is having Bavacqua there so that if Notre Dame gets positioned where they're going to have to make a move, they have the best possible guy to negotiate that deal, a TV exec, go figure, a big-time TV executive, to be able to figure that out. Because you can say Notre Dame's, in the tournament and eligible to be in and whatever. You can say all that. and then give like so many automatic bids. There's like 2 spots left or something for the Power 5, the Group of 5 team, and then us or whatever. Like, I just want to see how this plays out, because those 2 conferences are pushing for like 4 or 5 guaranteed bids right off the bat. And then your spots are just kind of taken all before you're even in it to doing anything. Your spots are taken and you're not eligible. You're going to get pinched. I think you're going to get pinched. And I just want to see how far these power brokers are going to be shoving in these automatic bids and how powerful they are and how much they're going to be able to get that done. So it's going to be really, really. So I don't think Notre Dame makes the move in the 12. I think it would be if you get into a 14 with so many guaranteed automatic bids around the country, you're sitting there going, what are you doing? Where's our way in? That's where I think things get tough. Rodney, what's going on? 618, got a couple 618s coming up. 219, you're all coming up. Rodney, what's up?
Hey, John, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, Rodney. I really enjoyed the week off. I needed the little Notre Dame break, and we got it. And there was some really entertaining football that affects our outcome too. What do you make of it all?
Well, dude, it's like you hear me okay?
Yep, I got you.
Okay, great. So I just turned speaker off. This is a new phone. I want to make sure it didn't do something weird. John, I said this a few weeks ago that, and I'm not trying to hype up Notre Dame right now. They're absolutely a work in progress. They could lose 2 more games at this point. I mean, I could absolutely see them lose 2 more if things go really bad. And if things go really bad, and who knows? So the floor has not been set for this team, in my opinion. Not what we thought it was at the beginning. This could be, at its absolute worst. I could see 4 losses at its absolute worst. I still think this is a 10-2 team. I just really do. I think there's another one coming, but that's what my heart tells me.
Okay.
Having said all that, I said weeks ago that, we're all just assuming every other team is just perfectly coached, perfectly aligned, have the exact right talent, right positions. I mean, this is not other than 2 or 3 teams. And we even saw one of those teams falter yesterday.
Yeah.
This is college football now. And part of it, John, I was thinking about this yesterday. Part of the reason I think this is happening, I don't think it's mentioned enough. I think in the back of people's minds, I'm talking about players, I'm talking about high school, and even coaches probably to some degree, but more specifically, those 7, I'll even say 17, that's how old that Alabama phenom is, 17 to 23, 24. I mean, how old was Sam Hartman when he left? Even that age group, in the back of their mind, they know there's 12 spots. I mean, it doesn't exactly work out that way because of conference tie-ins and stuff like that. But, there's like 12 spots. Don't tell me that doesn't factor into your sense of urgency when it comes to game to game to game to game. That's what's going to change now about college football. You're going to see more. I think you're rarely going to see undefeated teams unless they just have a cakewalk schedule. You know what I mean? And it's like you don't so I think you're going to be seeing this a lot. First of all, the Big Ten. I'm sorry, man. I'm looking at the SEC and the Big Ten. To me, the Big Ten is the hardest conference because maybe you've got more high-end teams in the SEC, but even those mid to low-tier Big Ten teams can come up on you. Like what Minnesota did yesterday. They're not a bad team. They're maybe not a good team, but they're not a bad team.
Yeah.
And if you're not playing your best every given Saturday, and I just don't see that happening anymore. Saban is a rare coach, man. He's a rare coach. Lou Holtz was very good at getting his guys ready to play most games, even the ones where they were, heavy favorites. Brian Kelly was pretty good about getting his teams to play those type of games, at least getting them to win those type of games. But in general, man, it's great that we got a coach that can get us up for the big games, which Notre Dame has not been able to find in a gazillion years since Holtz, really. But he's still got to learn that. Okay, so we understand where Notre Dame has to go up. But I'm telling you, we're just assuming that every other team doesn't have coaching issues, motivation issues. It's like, dude, I knew this was going to happen. It's just like at the time, all we had as our frame of reference was the first 2 games of the season. So everything else was in front of us. So college football fans, Notre Dame fans, who are also college football fans, weren't thinking about the big picture of college football. I was like, this is going to happen. Right now, we have the dunce hat. We're in the corner. We're in the timeout corner, but it's going to continue. And you're going to see other teams this is going to happen to. So, that, again, I think this is a 10-2 team. If they can go 11-1, I'm still not convinced they don't have a home game if they can go 11-1. Because that's a long time from that loss, John. That's a long time from that loss. And that Northern Illinois loss, well, they're nothing special. We know that, obviously, after 2 losses. But after that loss, it is not nothing's off the table. There's so many other the Vanderbilt beating Alabama, I would say, was very, when you look at it just relative speaking, not like who's better. Of course, Vanderbilt's in the SEC. They're a low-tier SEC team. Great for Clark Lee, by the way. Great for him. I always thought this guy can be a great head coach. I hope it continues for him. But, I think there was a 24-point they were favored by 24. Notre Dame was favored by 28. Okay, but still, it's a very similar loss. It's a very similar loss. Beating a team that the week before in Georgia, everybody's talking about how great you are, and then the next week to have this happen, Texas A&M, Notre Dame, everybody talking about how you're in that elite top 5 teams now, and then, we have that happen in Northern Illinois. You're going to see this happen. This is going to start happening more and more often now. So I think it's really interesting just knowing there's a 12-team field and how your mind is framed as such, and the perception you have about, well, we got one to give. I just think that will creep into a player's head.
Man, this is such a wild experiment that's the other place my mind has gone is the first batch of these 1 losses to a bunch of these teams made it really interesting. I want to see what happens next. I want to see what happens when you start getting 2-loss teams that the powers that be think are better than the 1-loss teams and how they handle that. That's where I think this is going to get juicy. And then, Rodney, let me ask you this. Are you confident Notre Dame's going to keep getting better throughout the second half of the year? Or are you worried that they have so many injuries at key places and everything and inconsistencies, it's just going to be a up and down battle week to week? Or do you actually have faith that they can put some roots in and actually start to grow here and become more consistent the second half? I want to know what you think about that.
Yeah, it's really weird you say that because you can see this go 2 different ways. But here's my gut feeling. I think they're going to keep getting better. That's my gut feeling. For defense, number one, defense is playing great, but they could even be better. We all kind of feel like this can even be better than what it is. I think we all kind of have that feeling. That unit, I think for sure, is going to keep getting better. They're already, I'd put them somewhere closer to where they were 2 years ago, or I'm sorry, last year, obviously, than where they were 2 years ago. But I don't think I still feel like last year's team defense may have been just slightly better at this point, but I think this one's going to be better at the end of the year. You know what I'm saying? When it's all said and done, I think it's going to be an even more dominant unit. And for whatever reason, John, I think the injury bug's going to stop. I just think that was a really bad luck for us the first several games. The fact that we also got another bye week coming up too, I think it was real smart scheduling this time around. So now there's 2 bye weeks within our schedule, and then kind of 3 if we do get into playoffs and you count the championship set. But I just got this gut feeling they are going to keep getting better. And let's face it, the offense doesn't really have anywhere else to go but up. And they have showed some signs of starting to move that along. And because of the offensive line injuries, these young players have had to learn to kind of gel a little bit. I think it's crazy. A situation that looked like, well, this is not great this year. And, next year coming back, we have some more issues as far as other positions of the team being somewhat depleted, now those positions being young. But as far as the line goes, I'm feeling a lot better about the line going forward now because of all the experience a lot of these young guys are getting, even if it gets shuffled up next year with guys, coming back, obviously, that were injured. That's going to be a really strong, deep unit for a couple of years, man. I think again, they got to keep getting better. Yeah, man, my gut feeling is that we're going to get better. I really do believe that. Even though I said 10-2, I just feel like there's going to be another game where things just aren't working right. I'm going to tell you, man, you had it correct. I think for whatever reason, in my gut, The games I'm most worried about that happening are I'll say the Navy game. And the reason I say that is because Army comes second. Once we've had that first game against the triple option team, I think that's when we'll kind of figure. But I just got a really, really bad feeling about that game this year. That's the one that scares me. I really mean that, dude. That's the one that scares me. Well, that's the one that I'm thinking could be the second loss.
Logically, it makes a ton of sense. What Navy does is shorten the game, and you get less possessions, and you got to maximize them, and we're not good at that. So, and
I saw their scores too, John, and they're kicking. I mean, again, these are not great teams. Yeah. Temple's really down this year, man. Temple's not what they were a few years ago.
Yeah.
So they weren't not being anybody special, and their defense has allowed a couple of big.
It's just the way they play.
Scored games.
It's just the way they play football does not match up.
Play and the fact that they can put points up. Yeah.
So, and you got listen. For as much as we like that defense, at one time with the game still very much in doubt against Louisville with the season on the line, you had 4 true freshmen running around on that defense. That's going to show at some point. And against Navy, that's where it pays to have like a Bertrand or something that's been there 7 years that knows how to position everybody. I'm just telling you, it makes me a little nervous, but we got to worry about one thing at a time. You got to get revenge on Stanford after the last time what they did at your place. You got to come out of this bye. That's the other thing, Rodney. Are you confident Notre Dame's going to come out of the bye with more energy ready to go? Because they haven't come out and been ready to go at home at all this year anyway. So is the bye maybe going to just be another week like that or what?
Tell me, correct me if I'm wrong, because if I am, I don't want to, I want to acknowledge that. But I think when Stanford came last year, it came a couple of games after the bye. It was either 2 or 3 games after the bye, if I'm not mistaken. It was either game 2 or 3 after our last bye, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not worried about us coming out after the bye. I'm worried about the game or 2 after that. Because that's where it seems like Freeman's had some issues. It's like really has them ready afterwards to get them prepared. So I'm not worried. I shouldn't say I'm not worried about Stanford, but for whatever reason, I'm not worried about it because psychologically where it lines up and what we've been through recently, I don't think they're going to play down to Stanford. They got a lot to prove. They just had a bye week. I expect them to come out playing really well.
Yeah.
I'd have been a little more worried about it if it came last week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that seems to be the trend in college football. You play a really tough game. The next week you play down. I mean, it did not surprise me at Louisville loss. It's not because I think Louisville's actually a good team, like a top 25-ish team, right? Maybe even maybe a bit higher than that, even top 15-ish. But they just played Notre Dame. They put all their energy into that one. It's just natural. You're going to see this happening a lot of times. Kent brought up. So I don't know if the point I'm reading on the screen is exactly what I'm thinking, but let me throw another nuance into what Kent might be saying or what I see from that. Because this is something else I've been thinking about. When it's Notre Dame institutions make it harder on the football team to be successful, they need to join something so they can afford 1 or 2 losses. Here's the other way of looking at it, Kent. And I thought about that. Okay, because we play a national schedule where we play maybe in some cases, we'll play Navy and USC every year. There's other teams in the ACC that will rotate pretty regularly, right? But then there's these other teams that come on our schedule once every 10 years, maybe for a home and home. I think that has a big factor on it too, because these teams that don't get to play at Notre Dame Stadium and they don't do it every year, and this is their chance and it becomes their Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I think that is why that he's making a good point that when you play the same teams all the time, it comes down almost more at that point to just talent and coaching and skill and all that. But when you only play a team once in a while, and that team gets to go to Notre Dame Stadium for their first game, or even play you at home at night at their home field, that gives them extra juice, man, because this is like we're playing Notre Dame. Even Georgia, even a team like that who is actually higher rated than us, coming into those games, that home and home we had with Georgia. That team was hyped to play us because it was Notre Dame and it was their first time to play us in years. If you're doing that every year and you're playing in a conference, I think you just get so used to playing each other that same excitement isn't quite there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
unless it's a rivalry game. That makes sense. I just want to comment on that. Other than that, John, I'll let you get to other callers, but I do feel better about the year now.
Yeah.
I do think like I said, I still think if we go 11-1, I still think there's an outside shot at a home game.
Wow, you
based
just
on
gotta
the way things are going.
You just
right
got to
now.
keep winning, and Notre Dame has the talent to
Keep
beat
winning.
all
I mean,
these
we're
teams.
like 11th right now, right? We're tied for 11th.
And,
I'm not
yeah.
even so sure that we shouldn't be 10th. But
Just,
whatever.
Just keep winning. If you just keep winning, you're going to
Just
move
keep
up.
winning.
And but it's just going to be a challenge with some of the way this team's built. Rodney, it's good to hear from you, man. I'm just glad. I'm glad we had good news over the bye week, man. This was as successful of an off week as you could ever have if you're Notre Dame. You got a ton of help here. And what will Notre Dame do with it? Rodney, I hope you have a good start to your week. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, man. And week 8 or 7, whatever it is, it proves to be. Wow, next week's going to be a fun day of college football.
Yeah.
Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks
Happy
a
Monday.
lot. Thanks. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for the donation as well. 618, what's going on? 618-814, what's going on? 618-219-716. All you guys coming up. 618, what's going on? Good morning. Notre Dame's back in action. What do we think?
I like you thoroughly enjoyed a Saturday of no stress, just watching college football, enjoying the games. Started off my day probably like every other Notre Dame fan, got up, watched Texas A&M beat the absolute brakes off of Missouri.
Man, they got that offense cooking. They got that offense cooking, man. I mean, and that was the thing with them. It's like, you know what you're going to get with that defense or whatever, but they started moving the ball. They put that all together. And that's the team we need to hope just keeps on winning too, man. And in that conference, they'll get a lot of credit for doing so.
Well, and in the same token, as I was watching that, I'm like, it's one of those, boy, am I glad we got them in week 1, because they were still trying to figure. We looked decent for the most part, came out of there with a win, and now as long as they keep winning, it just looks better and better for us.
Yeah, it certainly does. You want to know what's on my mind, though? And I know nobody wants to hear this right now, but I admit it crossed my mind. I was watching what A&M did, and the announcers are talking about like how they're improving over the year, whatever, and getting better with that offense or whatever. Listen, it ain't no picnic next year when they come to our place for game 1, and all of us want Notre Dame to not go the portal route and go in-house for a quarterback, whatever. You're looking at a scenario where Texas A&M's coming to your place week 1, and you're going to have a quarterback probably on their first start. That's probably what you're looking at for Notre Dame. This is a tough dynamic already. So there's no light at the end of the tunnel here. Like, it doesn't get any easier because that's the dynamic you're looking at to open next year. So it's already on my radar.
Let me bounce that back off of you, because I was thinking the same thing, but I also have a question at the same time. We were built up all summer. This is a playoff team. They're great. We're ready to compete at the next level, and we've all seen that just may not be the case. I'm not saying we're not competing at a high level, but nothing about watching them just screams national championship this year.
Yeah. And I mean, see, but the thing is, with the 12-team playoff, there's going to be a lot of teams that you are like, okay, good team, but not championship level that are in this tournament. That's the way this is going to go now, right?
Oh, 100%. I mean, we've talked about it. Everybody wants to be the 5 seed because you most assuredly get the group of 5 team as your home game. And, I've watched Boise State the past couple weeks. I don't know if we're stopping their running back.
Now, who's running back? I'm sorry, I lost you for a second. Who's?
Boise State, the GT, or I can't think of how to pronounce it. The kid that's probably going to be in the Heisman race from Boise State.
Oh man, I got to admit, I haven't watched a lot of the blue turf this year. I have no concept of the blue turf people.
I know. I mean, I don't know exact stats, but I know over 5 games he's well over 1,000 rushing yards. They're talking about him breaking the single season record.
Oh, that's interesting. Man,
multiple touchdowns.
That's a really interesting addition to the Notre Dame schedule too, just because they have like history of being a big, small time school with big results, right? Like a big football footprint for being a smaller school and all that. It's going to be really, really interesting. Can I ask, what do you make of Notre Dame's playoff position after all the chaos this week? Where's your mind at?
I'm still leery only because, and I understand a bunch of top 10 teams took a bunch of losses to unranked teams, but I think you're still going to hear it at the end of the day. Well, Alabama's 8, we'll just say they both lose one game. Well, Alabama's 11-1 and they lost to Vandy. Notre Dame's 11-1, but they lost to Northern Illinois at home.
Yeah. It's not the same. And I'm already annoyed. I'm already annoyed because I saw a lot of people being like, see, even Alabama loses to teams they shouldn't lose to. Yeah, that's true. But again, Vanderbilt is not Northern. It is not a home game. And also Notre Dame doesn't have the built-in credibility and recency bias on the positive end that Alabama has. Notre Dame has none of that. So these are totally unrelated. Quit comparing it to feel. It's Notre Dame people saying that to feel better about where we're at and the mistakes we've made. It's not the same thing at all.
No, and the only, while I enjoyed the Saturday off, stress-free, no Notre Dame games, I guess the other positive I can look at is no one got hurt.
Telling you, man.
We didn't have anybody get hurt.
I don't know how many of the injuries we have could get better over the 2 weeks, but man, we were beat up. This bye came at the right week. Notre Dame needed to get healthy. You had guys beat up all over. I don't know how many of the injuries could get that much better that guys can return and play versus longer term ones. The Traore thing hurts me so much, man. That guy finally came on, was finding a role on this team that he was owning and getting really good at it. He's flashing all over the place and is exciting on that, coming off the edge, and now he's gone. It's really just upsetting.
It's super upsetting, especially because, like you said, you could see some of these young kids really hitting their stride and being more comfortable on defense and making the correct reads and being so athletic.
Yeah.
Athleticism I haven't seen in Notre Dame in a while. And then all of a sudden, and I know that we've talked about, well, is it the strength conditioning coach's issue? Or I don't think so. It's football. It's a freak accident. These things happen. When you play a contact sport, you know exactly what you're getting into and what the possibilities could be. Yeah,
it's this is going to be an interesting run. And the way I'm kind of looking at this is the more weeks Notre Dame could just not lose, it's just going to get better and better, man. Other teams are going to drop these games. Notre Dame's got a schedule that should be manageable. Notre Dame could win all these games. They probably should win all these games. That doesn't mean they will. Like, you're in a really... For the nightmare that was our week 2, you ended up in about as good of a position as you could hope for having that nightmare happen. Like, that's kind of where I'm at. Is I feel like Notre Dame's actually in a pretty good spot given the nightmare and atrocity that took place in South Bend. You're in as good a position as you could be in, and you have a reasonable schedule. You just need to keep winning. If that offense can find a way to maybe build a little bit on itself and get a little better each week, I'd feel better about it, but I just don't know if I could trust that development from the offense.
No, and that was actually my last question for you. Is, we've all talked about figure it out and get to 11-1, and then we, for the most part, should be in the playoff. If we get to 11-1, I feel like we should be in. But are we as fans, do we keep wanting to see these 23-13 or 20? 8-3, like, or do we want Purdue games? Do we just want to come out, put our foot on the gas, say, no, we're Notre Dame, it's time for us to make our mark, and just pound these teams, because this is what the schedule's set up as. The service academies scare the hell out of me, just like you, but Virginia doesn't scare me very much. Not saying they couldn't beat us on a bad day, but they don't really scare me. USC is showing flaws that we all thought were there, and
Yeah.
now it's starting to get
No, you're doing this, going down that schedule, and I agree with you. But we lost to Northern Illinois at home. And so that makes everything you're saying like not matter that much to me, because what you're saying only applies if you get a certain level of play and can rely on it week to week as like your baseline. I'm not sure we're going to get that. So when you're saying like all these teams we should be doing, I agree with you, but I was saying that against Northern, we didn't get that. So that's what makes me think it's a week to week fight for your life. And you pray this team shows up and plays good football every week.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We sit Monday through Friday and just pray that on Saturday we put it together.
I mean, it's just stressful, man. There's just no like high level of play I know I could trust. And it just causes this anxiety to always be underneath the surface because I'm just never sure what team I'm going to get and how engaged they're going to be. And it's really anxiety provoking. I don't know what else to say.
No, you're absolutely right. Thanks for taking my call, John. Have a great rest of your day.
Hey, really good call, buddy. Give me a call again. Nice touching base with you. Thank you.
Thanks.
What a nice guy. 618-716. You're coming up. A couple chats here. Anders talking about Anders, somebody bet. You're talking about fading Purdue every week. Somebody bet against from like mid-April on when they saw the Sox were going to be the worst team in the league, literally just bet against the White Sox every single game for the entire year and made like 400 grand or something just betting against. It doesn't matter who they're playing or anything. This guy just bet against the White Sox to lose every single game since like from mid-April on. And he made like $428,000 or something. Just bet. It didn't matter who they were playing, who was pitching. You just bet against the White Sox, and you make a ton of money, man. You make a ton of money. Are people still debating in the chat which Vanderbilt's a bad loss for Alabama, but it's not Northern Illinois at home. We need to get over that. These are not the same thing. They're not even in the same. You can't even see them. They're so different. Back Bay. We have no business talking about the playoffs. ND has another bad loss in them. Get a grip, folks. Listen, man, you're saying to get a grip. Notre Dame, I understand both sides of this. I can totally see Notre Dame losing one or two more games easily. The way Notre Dame plays this year and with the injuries, I could definitely see Notre Dame losing a couple more games. We're all going to hate this. We're all going to be mad. I could see Notre Dame losing a couple more games. I could also see Notre Dame winning all these games and it being really stressful and like a bunch of 6-point wins or something. I could see it. But Back Bay, we're halfway through the year. We had this horrible disaster happen, and you're still in position to like maybe be able to reach the playoff. I don't blame Notre Dame fans for like going for that because that is realistic. With the one loss, until Notre Dame gets 2 losses, it is realistic to be like, if we keep winning, we're a playoff team, and for that to be exciting to people. So I get that. You could say you don't think it's likely Notre Dame's going to run the table the rest of the way, but like for now, I don't blame people for getting excited and kind of buying back in a little bit. 618, what's going on? 716 after that. What's going on, 618? Yo. We're driving through the country. I can hear us driving. Terrence! Call me back, bro. 716, you're in the mix. What's going on?
Hey, good morning, John. Hey, listen, I wanted to know, I prayed for your wife. How'd the surgery go?
Oh, thank you. Everybody's good. We're good to go. We're recovering and doing on a bye week, so we have some recovery time built in there. And we got to plan everything around here. So we plan it around the bye week, and we're all good to go. Thank you for asking. And it just didn't feel right not being with you fine people Friday. I don't like my routine being messed up.
Well, can I ask you this? Was it cataract surgery?
No, but it was something else. Something else. She's having like some things put in your eyeball to where you never need contact. It's not LASIK, but something they sew into your eye to do something so you never need glasses or contact. I don't know what it is, but it's something they sew in your eyeballs. I don't know.
I just went through that. They did on the 27th of August, they did my right eye, and on the 10th of September, they did my left eye, and they call it like a LASIK surgery or something. And yeah, I'm telling you, people asked me after the first one, I went in to see the doc, and he says, show off 20/20 vision. It's like having HDMI lenses. You would not believe what HDMI TV looks like now.
Yeah.
It's like your wife is going to be blessed.
Yeah.
No glasses. Just cheaters. All I need is like 125 cheaters.
Yeah, she works in surgery anyway, so she's not freaked out by any of that stuff. It doesn't bother her at all. Like the surgery, like I'm not a surgery doctor or person. She loves it. That's her world. She works in trauma surgery, so it like nothing bothers her. So for her, it was no big deal. But and I didn't want anybody cutting into my eyeballs. But she didn't mind it. She didn't mind it, so we did it.
Yeah, my little sister was my nurse anesthetist for both of them. So that was pretty cool. I had two sisters in the medical field. But getting back to football,
yeah,
I'm really happy and pleased with everything went well for your wife. So what do we have? I looked at all the games last week because you asked me if I was going to lay back and watch things. Well, I went to a men's breakfast for the church, and I'm coming home listening on Sirius to Texas A&M, and I'm thinking, man, they're just routing stinking routing Missouri, which really should have lost to Vanderbilt the week before. But Vanderbilt kind of blew it. So I knew Vanderbilt was kind of on the cusp. But anyways, so I'm listening to this. So I come home and I mow the lawn. I got about 3/4 of an acre I mowed Saturday, and I'm checking in on the thing coming up on the deck, and I'm checking the phone to see what the score is. At some point, I said, well, this game is over. And then I watched all the rest of them, and I watched the upsets. And here's a crazy wild thing. What's the connection between Elko and Lee that's the common factor? You should get this right away.
Well, they're Notre Dame defensive coordinators.
Exactly. They're both former defensive coaches at Notre Dame, but Kelly could never get the defense he wanted. Now figure that one out.
Yeah. And you know what, man? I was so proud of Clark Lee because, Vanderbilt's a tough job because you're the only academic school in the SEC. And so you're always playing against everything because you're the only academic type school. And then you have all of everything else that goes on down there. Like, I always feel bad for Vanderbilt and good for them. And you know what else? I love that quarterback. He is a fighter. He's got a personality. Everybody loves him, and they want to just lay in front of a train for him. What a great win. I love seeing it. It was beautiful.
Now, this is what I thought about. Actually, the guy's name, I call him Pavia. I got a friend, Rick and Audrey. His name it's spelled the same way. He says Pavia. But anyways, yeah, because I said, well, who's this Pavia kid? Well, then he started pronouncing it Pavia. But anyways, so I'm listening to that, and once again, where you brought up a topic I wanted to cover, Vanderbilt is the brain school. Mm-hmm. So they're kind of like behind the eight ball at times, like Notre Dame is. And I'm thinking, how come we couldn't get a quarterback like that? Academic-wise, he must have been okay. But the thing is, I believe Notre Dame only takes graduate transfers. I don't think they take anything under a graduate transfer. I don't think they allow it.
I think they're okay. Here's what I think. I think they're slowly starting to find ways to massage that for a little bit more flexibility. It is never going to be the Wild West, but I do have an understanding that they are trying to find more ways. to be able to open the doors to people with more eligibility than just that 1 year on the way out. But it is complicated working with Notre Dame and all the different colleges and specialties and all their requirements. And it requires a lot of coordination. And some people want to work with the athletic department and other people don't. It is very tedious, but I do understand that they're working on getting a little more flexibility from that. Not the Wild West, but a little more flexibility. That's my understanding.
Kind of like the Tony Rice, Lou Holtz era Prop 48.
There you go. And you know what happened? You know what happened? You got the guy in there and he won you a championship and turned into one of the best stewards for the university and a sweetheart of a guy. Like, that is the ultimate winning combination. And Lou saw something in that kid and believed in him and trusted in him, and it worked out for everybody.
Yeah, everybody said he couldn't pass, and I mentioned this to you before. We're listening to that year when they went out to play Southern Cal, the one that year they won the championship. And Notre Dame got the ball and it was on like the 1 or 2 yard line. He throws a bomb and it goes for a touchdown. First play of the game.
Yep.
Of course, that's Lou Holtz. Let's just do something big they're not expecting, right?
Yeah, it's
anyway. Yeah, getting back to Notre Dame. So I'm watching all the games this weekend. And yeah, does it help us? Yeah, Clemson. I knew Clemson that after they lost to Georgia, Dabo was going to get things straightened out, and them clicking kind of helps. What would be nice is to see Louisville. I don't know if Louisville plays them this year. I haven't looked it up, but you'd like to see if Louisville beat them. Miami is another team that we have to be concerned about. How many teams will they take from these conferences? You know what I'm saying? Are they going to take it? Would they take a third place team in the SEC with the same record as Notre Dame over Notre Dame?
Yep.
We don't know that because this is all new uncharted waters.
Yep.
But anyway,
it's a big question. It's a big question, man. I want to know how this committee looks at multiple loss Big Ten and SEC teams versus like a one-loss Notre Dame, and I want to see how they position those teams. That's what's coming next. I'm really interested to see.
Well, it's who they lost to, what the odds were in the game, who they lost to, and we know injuries are going to play a factor in all of this. Because last year with Florida State, right? You're not in because you lost your quarterback. You're not in. That's totally the whole reason they left, because their quarterback was gone. So we know injuries play a part. So there's things that we can look forward to. And in fact, this weekend, we've got a big one that we can look at. We got to hope that USC upsets Penn State. That is in our benefit. Totally in our benefit, because USC is definitely, they're out of it.
Yep.
I mean, with 2 losses in the Big Ten and who they got to play, they're out of it. So they're playing for pride right now, which brings me to this point. I shared with you a couple of weeks ago. I know a guy that he goes to church with me. He's a walk-on defensive tackle at Penn State. And when I made the comment to him, he said, yeah, he says, you're right. There's no doubt you're right. It's 10% physical and 90% mental. And the kids have to get themselves up. The coaches have to stir them up. But if you always look at yourself, I always look at myself as this. You're the underdog. Nobody respects you. You got to go out and prove it to them. You get that mindset into everybody. We're the underdogs. We got something to prove. Use things like they pick on Notre Dame because we never won a national championship. Guys, you came to the school for a reason. Start representing the school. Start taking this personally that they're coming after you because they don't respect you. Is that what you want? If you want respect from the country, you got to earn it. Get in their heads and get that mental part going, to say, hey, look at every game as a game that you got to prove yourself over and over and over again. And if you have that mental attitude like that, I mean, they are 18 to 22-year-olds, although we have some that are older now. But anyways, yeah, they're still young. They still are healthy. So yeah, it becomes a mental even in the pros. It's 10% work and 90% mental. And so then we have some other games we can watch this weekend that are going to affect some stuff. We got the Triple R, which is the Red River rivalry with Oklahoma and Texas, and it'd be interesting if Oklahoma could win that game.
Let me ask you this one. What's your prediction on old Brian Kelly there against Lane Kiffin? That's going to be a up where both of them are out of or are near us. Kelly's right behind us. They each have one loss. What do you got there? I'm really interested in that one. You're going to have Lane Kiffin against Brian Kelly in the SEC. I'm interested. That's a big game for Kelly to either stay on one loss or drop down to two. That's a big, big game. Pivot point for Kelly this year.
Yeah, because that's a day game. You don't want to play LSU at night, but that's a day game. That's my second one on the list that I have is Ole Miss and LSU.
Yeah.
And that, I don't know. Does he have a defense to stop Kiffin, and does Kiffin have a defense to stop him?
It's a good point.
That's the case in that game. And so then my next one was Penn State and USC. And, of course, we got Notre Dame and Stanford. Now, the early line is Notre Dame by 23.5. And the over and under is 45.5. So that would look to equate to a score that they're looking for. Like, it'll be interesting what Sportsline says when I watch that one program on Tuesdays. I'm looking at 35-10 would be your 25 points, which would be 23.5, 24, you know. But so that's what they got, 23.5 point favorite, 35-5 over under. So it'd be more or less like a 35-10. Then we have the other game that's going to be huge because now you got a Michigan team that's lost 2 games going to play Oregon, who is ranked, what, 6th in the country now? That's going to be an interesting matchup. Can Michigan go to the coast, and can they win that game? Can they literally win that game? And if they do, that's going to throw a lot of stuff into disarray because now Oregon's going to have a loss.
Yeah.
And Michigan's got 2 losses already.
See, that's the sweet spot. You're right. That's the sweet spot is finding teams that have multiple losses to beat the teams you need to be beaten because the other teams have enough losses that they're not going to rise ahead of you even if they win. That's the sweet spot. And that's where we're finding a lot of these teams right now is that's where I have them. Like with USC too, you're like, multiple losses. There's not much. They're not going to rise in the rankings. So now go ahead and clip Penn State and drag them down. Like now I'm here for watching all those. It's going to be interesting, man, but only as long as we keep winning week by week. Doesn't have to be pretty. You just need to keep clawing out wins, baby.
Oh, that's it. That's it. Like we said last week, we were talking about the fact it's how much can these kids be taught, how much can they retain, and how much can they execute it for us, for Notre Dame. And, you know, it's a shame that we're losing the people, but he's recruited well. And the kids are, like the guy made the comment, man, about athleticism. I haven't seen that in a long time at Notre Dame like that since you had, you know, Rocket returning kicks and you had Brooks and those guys running and trying to think who the player was that Holt suspended when they went out west to play somebody and he suspended them, a running back. Boy, I should remember his name. But anyways, you know, Holtz did that before too. They back in '78, they were Arkansas when he coached them. They were playing Oklahoma, I think, in a bowl game. He suspended the 2 starting running backs.
Yeah, was it Ricky? Was it Ricky? I think it was Ricky. Yeah, now people are putting it. People are putting it in the chat now too. Yeah, it's Ricky.
Yeah, because Ricky Waters was the one. He says, "No, you're not playing in this game. You didn't do something right." But yeah, so I look forward like this weekend. We need to make a statement for Stanford, and we need to play up the. Listen, teams actually what happens is, and this is getting back to the mental part. You play down to your bad competition. No, that's the competition that, and I hate to say this, but the committee looks at style points. You're supposed to beat them by 23.5. You beat them by 40. Okay, you know they start looking at that Northern Illinois loss then as an aberration. Like, you know, this was just a thing. Like
but you got to start piling it on people, not just barely getting by them.
My favorite comment over the weekend, though, when I'm flipping back and forth through the channels, and I got YouTube TV, so you hit it twice and then just go to whatever one you want. But I remember this Brian Jones on CBS. He says it was halftime for the Vanderbilt-Alabama game, and he goes, "I'll bet you a jar or whatever." And they go, "What are those?" He goes, "Pickled pig's feet. I'll bet you a jar of pickled pig's feet. That score is going to change. There isn't no doubt," he says. Well, it changed. It got greater. The point got changed. Alabama was on the losing side.
Yeah, it changed for sure. So this is going to get This is going to be really, really interesting. Notre Dame's right in the mix here. It loads up the second half of this season full of intrigue as long as Notre Dame keeps winning. Anything on the way out, my friend? Thanks for touching base after a wild weekend in football.
Yeah, I think that I have a concern about both of the service academies.
Yeah.
And I'm not so much worried about Navy as I am Army, because Army is passing the ball a lot more, and they definitely have a quarterback that can run. And if you remember a few years ago, Army almost upset Ohio State in the shoe. And it was, I don't know if it was their second week or it was opening weekend. And, service academies, those guys go through all that stuff during the week so they can let out all their aggression on the football team. And that's what concerns me.
Yeah,
when the game comes.
It's going to be interesting.
I just want to switch it.
One
so
week
now becomes a watching game for us.
Yeah. 1 week at a time. Just keep winning. Hey, thanks for the call, man. Touch base with me later in the week.
All right. Thanks, John.
Yep. Have a good one. Like, I don't know where he came from, man. He is not a long-time guy. He just found me recently and put me on that speed dial, baby. 917, what's going on? I got my main man coming up after that, Martinez. I got 219. I want to get both you guys on. 917, what's going on?
Hey, John, it's Pat from West Palm.
What's up, buddy? Hey, I don't think you're going to be able to escape the storm for the next one, are you? I think most of the state's going to get hit, aren't you all?
Yeah, it's supposed to cut across from Tampa across, so we're not really in the... Well, I'm under a flood warning, but not under like a true hurricane
warning. Yeah, man.
But Tampa's going to get whacked again. Tampa's going to get hit hard.
Yeah, it's tough for a lot of people down there. So hope everybody remains safe. Really interesting off week for Notre Dame with a lot of things happening in college football. I would love to know your thoughts.
Yeah, I look at the Vanderbilt Alabama game, and that to me is scary. What I mean by that is we do not want that coach at Vanderbilt to start building something, because if you want to get a good player from the South who's interested in a good education, and Vanderbilt does offer a good education and play good football, that's going to hurt us. We really do. I mean, look, odds are it's Clark Lee, I think, is the coach, excellent coach. Odds are he'll jump to a much better school. But we better pray that happens. Because if it doesn't, and he builds something down there, that'll become the equivalent of like Harbaugh.
Are you making the connection? There's a connection to be made here, my friend. If Freeman doesn't work,
the connection is we picked the wrong.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, I was going to see if you were going to go there too. The connection is if things don't go well with Freeman, you could call that guy up, and he's got all the smart kids he could recruit down there and have a good defense. It's just good to see a good old academic school win something. Good. I was happy for them. And those are the kind of losses you just don't see from Alabama under Nick Saban. Like, you would see some losses, but it usually wasn't that kind. They were pretty insulated from that kind for most of his tenure. It was really interesting to see.
Yeah, no, I think it's, I'm just concerned about Vanderbilt becoming the new Stanford, because, Harbaugh's rise at Stanford I thought it really hurt Notre Dame recruiting.
Oh, it did. Do you remember? Man, there's some people too young in this fan base to remember. There were some years where the best tight ends and the best offensive linemen that were academic types were selecting Stanford over Notre Dame. And I was raising all heck about it, saying, Notre Dame's already in a tough recruiting spot. You can't be losing the best smart kids too. Like, that was a problem. Yeah. Some of those tight ends and some of those offensive linemen we're picking Stanford. You can't exist that way if you're Notre Dame, where you're not even getting the best smart guys.
They had the best running backs too. And they had guys like Andrew Luck playing quarterback. I mean, they had vastly better players than we did.
Yeah, they did. It was tough. They had it going, man. It was tough for a while, and you had to respect it because you knew they actually had to go to school and do things the right way. And they were kicking the crap out of us for a while. It was tough. So I don't know, man. It's How do you feel coming out of this bye? Do you feel like Notre Dame's going to continue to get better throughout the second half of the year? Or do you fear that all the injuries and the inconsistency is too much and it's just going to be a week-to-week fight? How do you think this is going to go?
Well, I think our team is a weak team. I think we have probably the 20th best team in the country, right? That's where I think we fall. But the good news is our schedule is such garbage that we're going to beat the rest of these teams except for USC. I mean, these academies, I mean, Notre Dame only loses to Navy. If you look at the history of the last, 15, 20 years, we only lose to Navy when we have a garbage defense or a garbage defensive coordinator. And, Golden, for all my criticism, the best thing Freeman ever did was hire Golden. Because Golden seems to have the defense pretty locked in. And if you look at 2007, when Charlie Weiss, I didn't even know who the coordinator was, and it was Corwin Brown. That was a weak defense. The 2009, when we lost to Navy, again,
you know why? You know why? Because Corwin Brown was a Michigan guy. That's what you get when you make a former Michigan player your DC. It's just not going to go well. Get him out of here.
Well, I would say the same thing about the Carr kid. Everybody's acting like Carr's our savior. You cut him and he bleeds Michigan blue. So, I would tap the brakes on who is and who isn't a Michigan guy. But, back to my original point, we lose to Navy when our defense can't get off the field and they just run 4 yards every down and just walk us right down the field.
Yep.
Our offense only gets, 6 or 7 touches in the whole game, and that's the end of that. But if you have a good defense, athletic defense, and you jump on them and you put them in 2nd and 13, which will turn in, 3rd and 9, Navy's got no chance, and the same is true of Army. So I'm not really concerned about the schedule. I think that it's so embarrassingly weak that the schedule we're playing that even a mediocre coach like Marcus Freeman can get us.
Well, now wait, man, I struggle with this. What if USC was really good, and what if Florida State was good? Like, is it our fault that we scheduled Florida State and USC and both of them are having bad years? Like, if you had Texas A&M to start with and a good Florida State team and a good USC team, would you still say it's like a really weak schedule? Because, it's not our fault. Both of those teams aren't that great, right?
Yes, I would say that because you scheduled Miami of Ohio, Northern Illinois,
it's true,
and 2 service academies in the same year.
It's a fair point.
I don't care how good.
That's a fair point.
How good SC or FSU or A&M were.
It's a good answer.
Those are 4 games that should be laughers.
That's a good answer.
In a weekend. Now some teams are good some years and bad other years, and so as we just talked about, there are years where Stanford's a real team, but they're not this year.
Yeah.
There are years that Louisville's a good team, but they're not really this year. So, but they chose to take those 2 MAC teams and Army, and the Navy game's a given. So, those are 4 weeks that should be easy wins.
Now wait. Now here's the other part of it is, I believe Miami was supposed to be in that Army spot, and Miami pulled that game, and then it put us in a bad position late to have to try and fill that game, and then we ended up filling it with Army. That was supposed to be Miami, and they're having a pretty good year, so that would have added something else to the schedule. So I get what you're saying,
I think that's BS, though. I think that's Notre Dame's spin and BS. I say that only because I think this year is the 100th anniversary of the famous Notre Dame Army game in Yankee Stadium. I'm pretty sure that's right. So Notre Dame, the last several years has been, and I'm not saying that as a South Florida guy. I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
I think Notre Dame's been eyeing Army for the 2024 season for a long time.
To do like 100-year the Horseman Ride Again tour or what?
Yeah, basically the anniversary, and it's a chump team. They wanted to make it easier for whoever the coach was. I will say this: I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent, but I have to say something. Whenever somebody says that the Notre Dame football helmet, the gold helmet, is a symbol of the Golden Dome, I want to go and find Jack Swarbrick somewhere and punch him in the face, because I was at the 2018 game against when Notre Dame and Army played in Yankee Stadium, and here we come out in a pinstripe uniform where allegedly our symbol of the Golden Dome has been painted over into the color black to make it look like a Yankee uniform. Either you believe it's a symbol of the Golden Dome, in which case, how dare you desecrate the Notre Dame uniform that way, or you don't believe it and it's all a big lie.
No.
If Pivacqua puts us out in that black uniform, black and white pinstripe uniform, I'm going to punch him in the face.
You know what it is. Right. We're all about the tradition in our Golden Dome until the next big marketing opportunity comes. And then that goes out the window and you sell your new jersey for a month and then you go back to the tradition. Okay. That's how this goes.
Well, then my fist is going to find Pivacqua's face.
I'm telling you.
I find the whole thing.
I'm telling you, you don't need to mess with gold. It's gold. Pure gold is pure. You don't need to mess with gold. You just wear the gold. You don't need to mess with gold. But what do I know? I'm an old guy. I like my tradition. Notre Dame's old uniforms, the regular stuff, winning. I like old school traditions in Notre Dame, like winning and being good at football and having good quarterbacks and winning Heismans and winning and wearing your blue and gold. God bless me.
Look, I'm with you. But it's hard to sell tradition to recruits when you don't respect it.
Yeah.
You know?
It's dude. Listen, man, those the Yankee pinstripe uniforms. Here's the problem: you desecrated the two most iconic uniforms in all of sports. I would argue is Notre Dame's classic uniform and the Yankee pinstripes. They found a way to ruin and minimize both of them. Like, it was so offensive to me as a sports historical landscape. What they did, they ruined both uniforms. It was unbelievable. Unreal.
Anyway, I want to just get that off my chest, but I appreciate taking the call, John. And,
no problem, man.
You're doing a great job with this. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Stay safe down there and touch base with me later in the week when we get closer to the game. Okay, man? Thanks.
Sounds good. Take care, man.
Have a good one. Man, I never know what I'm going to get from that dude. Sometimes he's really mad about stuff. Sometimes he's more laid back. I like it. It's unpredictable, and I like the unpredictable nature. My main man, Martinez, what's going on, baby? What up?
Yo, what up, Johnny?
Hey, man, I hope you had a good, relaxing weekend. No Notre Dame stress. What do you make of it, man? Carnage, upset Central. What do you make of it? What's the realities?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I had a really good weekend down south with my parents. They live in a small country town with about 30,000 people. It's a little college town. Has Southern Utah University, basically, is what. But I had a really, really nice, calm, slow country weekend.
Oh, man. Don't you need it? You like that kind of thing refreshes you, man. Like it's so freeing. It's like it reboots your soul almost when Notre Dame has an off week.
Yeah, it did. And you know what? My dad and I was watching that Michigan State-Oregon game Friday night. Hey, that Oregon team's good, man. That coach, he's good. You know what I mean? Like the way, Michigan State isn't what they once were a few years ago, man, but that Oregon team pushed them around pretty good, man. You know what I mean? But that's what I mean. That's what I meant on my comment. These teams, now that the landscape has changed, they're gonna find out, and it's gonna expose a lot of teams, I think, to how good they really are. Because traveling, like I said, when I gotta travel to South Bend, I gotta go to Dallas-Fort Worth up to South Bend. It takes 8 hours worth of flights and layovers and all that, man. And granted, these teams all have, charter jets that they fly from whatever airport. Like, I flew out of South Bend Regional. But, I was talking to my brother, hey, man, UCSC lost. They went to Minnesota. He goes, and now they're going to fly back home to L.A. Then the next week, they're going to fly back to Maryland. These teams are going to start finding out how good they really are. When they ain't got, you know what I'm saying? I think that's
do.
Gonna be the X factor. That's what the Irish has been doing for the last.
And now,
I don't know, 100 years.
Here's the other. You bring up a really good point. Notre Dame never gets credit for all the mileage they fly around the country all over. And now, not only is the travel going to start getting these teams like USC from out west, but the cold weather. So you're going to start having that travel east, and it's going to start getting real cold. That is a whole nother thing they're going to have to deal with, and they're not going to like it. Who wants to be on that plane leaving sunny at warm LA and going to Rutgers in November or something at 11 a.m. in the cold or something? Like, they're not going to like it. It's going to be a big adjustment. You're right.
No, and that's how it is, and that's what I've been paying attention to. I don't know how the Big Ten originals will do, like Michigan and Ohio State, but I think in time, like, it might affect them too. But Ohio State's always in the Rose Bowl. They play it really well. Like when they beat Utah.
Hey, Commander Luke says, just fly into Chicago and ask Johnny to drive you to South Bend. You're the main man. I might have to do that, man. I'll have one of those. It'll be like I'm one of the guys in the limo with the sign there, and it'll just say main man, and I'll have a little driver's hat on, and I'll scoop you up at Midway. We'll drive through the city, and we'll head over to town.
Yeah, we'll do that, man. We'll do that. It's I flew into Chicago O'Hare the first time I went to South Bend, and man, that airport is crazy, man.
Yeah. Well, not only is that airport crazy, but it's a lot further from South Bend than Midway because it's further northwest. So you have further the city you got to drive through to get out of the city to get into Indiana. That's the other problem. I avoid O'Hare like the plague.
Oh, is that what it was? Yeah, that was what my connecting flight was, man. And we almost couldn't get out because there was some severe storms, man. But yeah, that's the only time I've ever flew into Chicago, man. And I was like, this airport's crazy, man. But yeah, that's all I want to say, Johnny, man. Really, I think that the landscape of college football, as far as the traveling, now the SEC knows how to rig it. You know what I mean? They know how to rig it to where, like, you brought Oklahoma and Texas in, which is not far from all those other teams. You know what I mean? That Vanderbilt, man, what a great win for those guys, man. You know what I mean? And I think eventually the rest of this NIL will take place, like they'll start exposing these teams and these coaches. Because let's be honest, man, like how Bruce said, I hate the SEC. I hate every one of those teams, and it's just now that they've always paid players. Let's be honest. They've always paid them. You know what I mean? Some of them dudes can't even read, man. And so the NIL is exposing them too, you know what I mean? And so that's my opinion on that.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. The college football is changing, and we're just getting started here with this playoff, and we're going to see how it all unfolds. Are you confident Notre Dame's going to just get a little bit better each week, or do you feel like there's too many injuries and it's just going to be inconsistent as we've seen already? What do you feel?
So you know what, on that topic, I think they're going to consistently get better every week. Their passing obviously has gotten a little bit better. I mean, Riley finally threw a 30-yard touchdown, right? I think these young kids are stepping up. You know what I mean? Jeremiah Love is really, flourishing into the running back we always knew he was going to be coming in, 2 years ago. So, that'll give a chance for these young kids to come in and play. Maybe they're hungry, So I'm hoping that they get better. I'm thinking that they'll get better week by week. I'm not gonna say dramatically all of a sudden Riley Leonard's putting up 300 yards and the defense is what it once was last year. But I think in baby steps they'll get better. And if for Freeman it would be beneficial that they get better. And one of your callers said about 2 calls ago, or Bruce said it. Yeah, he said, hey, they're fighting for their coach now. Love him or hate him, man. They love that dude. And so I think that will give them the extra X factor, man. You know what I mean? Yeah,
it's Notre Dame's in an interesting position, man. You're right outside the top 10 with that horrible loss. If you just keep winning, you're going to be in this tournament. So it's going to be playoff feeling vibe for me every single week. Scratch and claw, get your wins. Let's see how far we can run this out with one loss.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that's the key. And one thing I want to say, and as far as the whole recruiting thing, I've seen the videos, and how these recruits and all that, and I don't mean to get off topic about the one loss because every game is an elimination game, right? Every game is going to be an elimination game. That's how they got to pursue it. But Andrew Gilmore said something, man, a few weeks ago, said about going to California, and those recruits, because I know everybody was kind of like, well, Deuce finally decommitted and he's counting us. I heard you say that over the in the beginning, the intro. Oregon, when they had all those monster teams, half of their rosters were from California. Half of the packs, were from California. So he's got a point there, and I've seen that kid. I don't know where he's from, that Oregon quarterback, man, but I mean, I think Freeman should target, I agree with Andrew right there, man. Target a little bit more than dudes out of California, man, and get those stud quarterbacks we need, man. Get those mean players like Goolsby was, you know what I mean, and Manti and all them. But I know Manti's out of Hawaii and Goolsby's out of the Midwest. But Gilmore, I just want to tell, shout out to Gilmore on that, because he was right. If you look in all those Chip Kelly days, half of his roster was from California. You know what I mean? And maybe we should start approaching that again a little bit more harder, than when we did with Deuce. And it's hard to lose Deuce, man, but we move on. You know what I mean? We move on. Like I told you, the quarterback that came out of the high school I coached is ranked number 2 in the nation. He went to Alabama and didn't do shit. You know what I mean? So rankings are rankings, man, but the play on the field is a totally different story, buddy.
Yep.
But yeah, back to your stuff week in, week out, man. It's elimination. Johnny, I won't take up too much of your time. Love you guys. Love the chat, man. Look forward for the next shows, man. And onward, Notre Dame, buddy.
Love it. Have a good start to your week, buddy. Take care.
You too.
Thanks
Bye.
for the donation as well, buddy. 219, you're coming up. Commander says, John, you said you were thinking of buying a van or a bus, take the show on the road before. There's a guy 5 minutes from the little suburb here. He's got a full school bus. University of Illinois. A full out-of-commission school bus. Not a short bus, not like a party bus. A literal full orange school bus, painted over, all U of I, and some of the seats taken out, and there's like a party area and a bar area and then a sitting area and this and that. I don't want a full school bus because that's inconvenient to drive. What are them little party buses or something with a spot to record in the back, places to chill and make drinks? I need a little studio in it so I could record, and you bring that thing on the road, and as long as I can record from it, we're not limited. We could go everywhere. We could be at every bowl game. We could be at every road game, and we could be doing, I just got to be able to record from it. And you can actually get those they're not that expensive, probably because they're inconvenient. Man, it would be fun. Yeah, I see your jokes about Johnny and the short bus. I mean, we're dealing with what we're dealing with here. Let's be realistic. What's going on, buddy?
That's right.
It's
a big show.
Oh,
With the big dog,
it's the
John Kennedy.
It's the
What's
big
up, man.
It's
Long time, no combo.
It's the big show. What's on your mind, brother?
Well, I'm sitting here thinking about how not to be a loser when it comes to Notre Dame football.
Ooh, that's an interesting
and rule
one.
Rule number one of not being a loser is not having a loser's mentality. For example, some of these teams that have lost this weekend, does it help the Irish? Well, yeah, it's going to. But at the same time, if I'm going to go take a test, or let's say I'm a weightlifting guy, and my goal is to go into the gym today and bench 315. And there's another guy in there, and he's also going in there, and he's wanting to do 315. And I go up, and I fail. I don't get it. And then he goes up, and he doesn't get it. And then I point and say, well, hey, look, he couldn't do it either. Does that reach my goal, or does that make me closer to my goal? And I think a lot of Notre Dame fans, oh, look, Alabama, they lost, and, some of these other teams lost. Does that matter have to do with Notre Dame football, is my question.
I think after Northern Illinois, everybody felt bad about what the year was going to be, and seeing all these people come back to the pack and losing these games makes you realize we're not the only ones who lose games we should win, and your season's not over. And if you keep winning, you could maybe make the playoff and get hot. I think people are just trying to have a little hope. They're halfway through the year and they want to have a little hope. Is that wrong?
No, that's nothing wrong with that. I agree. But at the same time, again, that's not working on who we are.
I do that. I get that. I get that. But as a fan, what am I going to work on? It's a bye week, and I want to see, and as a Notre Dame fan, when we're on a bye week, I watch the games and root for what would benefit Notre Dame the most, or my personal animus towards Kelly or Michigan or whoever. And so, but like, I get what you're saying. That stuff doesn't make Notre Dame better, but nothing you and I could do is going to make Notre Dame better. We're just fans, right?
Well, I agree. I'm the same way. I'll root for whatever is going to help out Notre Dame long term. But I guess what I'm trying to say is I hope that, the players don't view it that way, or some of the coaches don't say, well, hey, I hope Freeman don't feel like, hey, Alabama lost, so now that eases up pressure on me because they failed at their goal this week.
But dude, wait. If anything, it should re-energize and refocus Notre Dame to be more impactful about what they do, because you're in this thing. If you just keep winning, you're going to be in the playoff. And I feel like this should re-energize the whole operation of people being like, look, guys, we're still in this. Because I just feel like it's been a big emotional lull since Northern for everybody, the fans and the team and everything. I'm hoping this fuels a new spark and energy for everybody in the second half of like, yeah, we had a dumb loss, but it's not over yet. And then if we lose the second game, then we'll have to have a funeral because then it'll be over.
It should absolutely energize the team, and it should energize the coaches. And I hope that there's some coaches that are, mentioning what you just brought up, that, hey, this breathes new life into it. All right. We were about out and we still could be. And, but we still, we're not to the end of the rope yet.
Yeah. Yeah. It's,
yeah, I agree. That's got to be the mentality. Hey, this is new life.
Yep. That's got to be it. And it just feels like, we were behind the 8 ball and a bunch of other teams took a big step back. Atlanta did a bunch of stuff that just kind of levels the playing field back up. Not that the Northern Illinois loss didn't happen, but the effects of it got minimized a lot by some of these dumb losses teams had this week. Now, can I trust Notre Dame to win all their games? No, I don't trust Notre Dame. I just hope they show up to play. I don't trust them, but I want them to win the rest of the games.
We don't know what we're going to get.
Nope, I have no idea. I can't trust this team, and that's a very, very uncomfortable place to live from.
We don't know how they're going to look coming out of that tunnel on Saturday after the week off.
Yep.
Because, again, we still haven't seen Marcus Freeman show any real fire about any sense of urgency and anything. Yeah, well, you get it a little bit on A&M. And, he yelled at the one guy with the one game or whatever. But other than that, not like we do see the other coaches and stuff, And, I think a lot of that has to do with why the recruiting is probably going to end up outside the top 20 when it's all said and done and the class signs. You've lost Deuce Knight, which I never believed he was signing anyways. And that's another thing what I've heard people saying, well, Deuce he was scared of the competition. He didn't want to face off against CJ and he didn't want to do this. That I will not buy either, because Deuce chose to go to Auburn and you're going to play the top teams, the top corners in the South every week. So I don't buy in that Deuce left because he was scared he was going to be sitting the bench. The recruiting, and now I'm hearing that this other Dallas Golden, this corner, is him and Deuce are great friends, and I'm hearing that he's kind of looking around.
Oh man,
It's like, okay, you lose that guy. The recruiting, I don't know, I don't have all the answers, but I would say the approach I would take would be, hey, we want you here. We need you. We got to have you. But do not commit to me until you are ready to, whatever it is you have in your system, you need to get out. You want to go travel around. You want to go hang out with Hugh Freeze and, do what he likes to do and, do that kind of fun. Don't do it.
Hey,
do it.
I was wondering. I knew what you were getting at, but I was wondering how you were going to say it to like keep it YouTube friendly. I know exactly what you mean.
Let him cook.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. He's cooking.
You got to have something to where you're not getting left at the all. And what is like 2-3 months, and these guys are supposed to sign, and now. Again, this quarterback situation is going to get really screwed up because I have a feeling that Angeli and Minchie are both going to transfer.
Oh, now you got problems.
Now you don't got dudes. Now you got one scholarship quarterback on the roster, CJ Carr. Then you're going to go get some scrub, and not to be disrespectful to whoever the player is, but it's not going to be one of these top guys. And then that gives you two. You're either going to have you're going to have to move Buckner back to QB for depth, and you're probably going to have to bring in another transfer portal quarterback, which, based off Freeman's history, we know that he's going to play that transfer guy. Come hell or high water, it don't matter what happens. He's going to play that guy. And now, you got CJ sitting there, and he might not ever even take the field. With the way that things are developing.
Man, it's
What do you think about that? Do you think if Angeli and Carr? We know Minchie, he's probably gone. He ain't even got no chance. Angeli, Freeman, I just think don't like the kid for some reason. So those two guys are probably gone.
It's going to be really interesting.
What do you do?
I don't know, because you're right. A part of me thinks Angeli's going to stay because he wants to compete for this job next year, even if it looks like Carr's going to win it. I think Minchie would be. I don't know if they both leave. Then what do you do? I don't know what you do, man. But you're going to go from like 4 to 1, 4 to 1.
Listen. Let's say. One of those guys is going. Let's say it's Minchie. Let's say Minchie goes, okay, so that still leaves you with Angeli, Carr, and hopefully some type of quarterback and for a recruit. I still think that even if only one of those guys leave, Freeman's still bringing in a transfer quarterback. And as soon as he does that, that should be a red flag to Angeli. Hey, this ain't no fair quarterback deal. They're going to pay this guy, and he's going to play. So guess what? Now I'm leaving.
Oh man,
and then you got to. At that point, you're stuck, and you got to move Buckner back.
Man, it's going to be. I've thought of some of this about like maybe one guy leaving, but if both of them did, then you're in an interesting spot. I don't know, man. It's just. I have heard that both Minchie and Angeli just really like Notre Dame. I have heard behind the scenes, both of them really just like being game. Maybe that's enough to keep them there. Maybe it's not. I don't know.
Well, I don't know either. I mean, we'll see what happens.
We'll find out. Hey, what about Stanford? What about this Stanford game? What about the Stanford game? Do you think we're going to, I can't let you leave here without that. You think we're going to pull it together? Or are we going to do what we did last time we had a home game against Stanford?
I don't see any reason why Notre Dame can't go out there and win the rest of their games for the remainder of the season. But do I think that's going to happen? No. Why? Because Marcus Freeman has never won more than 5 games in a row since being at Notre Dame. No more than 5. You're going to have to win that many at the end of a season just to ever even think about getting into the title game. And so do I think that's going to happen? No, they're not going to win. Will they beat Stanford? I don't see why they shouldn't. But are we going to go on some major roll here and, crank off, do what Marcus Freeman hasn't done so far, which is win more than 5 games? No, I don't believe that's going to happen. And, and then we also like to say, Notre Dame fans, like, well, Freeman's got all these wins over top 25 teams. Okay, that is fact. But when you go back and you look, you can go back and look at each and every one of them top 25 wins he has. And outside of maybe 1 or 2 of those teams were not good at the end of the seasons that Freeman beat them. And you can say, well, that's because Notre Dame put him on that path after they beat him and knocked him out. They could never recover. That I will buy from time to time, but not every single time. These teams were not that good that got beat. I don't know what Notre Dame's going to do. Nobody does. It's
going to be
not going to get any better if the recruiting don't improve.
It's going to be interesting. Well, we'll see how it goes, man. Hey, thanks for touching base, though. It's been a while. I appreciate you starting out a Monday with me. Thank you. Anything on the way out?
Yes, sir, John. Other than, focus, I just want the team to focus on themselves and, not get stuck in thinking the way loser mentality thinking and just go out and, start building. And, it's a new life. Let's go.
There you go, man. I appreciate it. Hey, have a good start to your week. Hit me up soon. Appreciate the call. Appreciate the donation. Look at this from Rick. $20 holler. Hope the Irish are doing well. Stay safe from the storms. Hoping to play y'all in the playoffs. Gig 'em. Hey, listen, Rick, I thought of you, man. The big win over the weekend. I thought of you and your boys. Everybody, if you're not familiar, Rick's an A&M guy. Found the channel in the run-up to Notre Dame and A&M back in the summer, and he never left. And I appreciate it. Regular donator here all the time. So, Rick, I did think of you, buddy. And, we're pulling for you guys. It helps us. So, really glad to see your offense break out. And that's a big win. So, congratulations to you guys. And thanks for the donation as well. All right, folks, that's going to be it. I do have another bank of callers. I got a Zoom call at 11 o'clock. I got some notes I got to prepare for that. I'm going to have to end it a couple minutes early. Hit me up on Wednesday. We'll be back and we could get into more of Stanford and that kind of thing. Texas A&M, my main man, and get into that. So thanks to everybody for donating. Everybody for chatting, everybody for calling. Good start on a Monday. Really appreciate the donations. And we'll go live with Goolsby tonight on the Raw on Patreon. We'll talk to you guys soon.